Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. I'm Nick and this is MSFS Flight Plans, a place where my only goal is to make sure you never run out of reasons to hop back in the sim. Learning all kinds of amazing things as we go along is just the delicious icing I slather all over the top of each of these trips. And today's is going to be a fairly big departure from our usual routine. Last month I got a member recommendation, a complete flight plan in fact, out in Montenegro, which is a place I'd heard of before, but I probably wouldn't have been able to find it on a map if anyone was pressuring me to do it. Well, it's got a lot of history, lots of forts, castles, some dams, and cable cars, all the stuff we like to look at around here, but for this trip, we're not going to be looking at any of that because the natural landscape out here is going to blow all of that stuff away. And because the best circuit to see it all is right at 200 miles long, we cannot be fooling around with any of the GA planes for this one. Instead, I'm going to show you all these incredible canyons and rivers and mountains and valleys. It's somewhere around 500 knots, although we will be going faster than that occasionally, and as often as I can get there around 500 feet above the deck. And what better plane to do that in than the old F-16. And you guys know, if you've been around for a while on the channel, that I don't have a lot of fighter planes. I just picked this one up because it's on sale in the marketplace, along with a lot of other really cool planes, actually, if you haven't seen the current sale going on. And I'm not great at flying it, not great at operating it, but I can get it up, and once we get in the air, it's a lot of fun to fly for this kind of trip, so we're going to take it. And I've already pre-configured some of the stuff because I'm having trouble getting my head tracker to move to certain parts of the plane. So I don't know what's going on with that. So I've just got a few switches that we're going to have to click here. The first one's going to be the main power, which I'm actually just going to use with my little switch here on my console because I'm having trouble seeing that. And then open the fuel valve and then turn on the... Actually, that's already open too. I did that one too. So now we just have to get these things going. And that should do it. And we'll get moving here in just a second. While that's going on, let's take a quick look at the Google map. All right, so here's Italy. We've been out here fairly recently, taking a few flights out here. We did Sicily not too long ago. And then here is Montenegro, right here across the Adriatic Sea from Italy. So the place that we're leaving from is right down here. I'm not going to zoom in real close because it's such a huge flight. We're going to be flying out pretty far. So we're going to leave from right here at Tivat. And we're going to cruise up this way through this little canal right here that goes through these mountains. And all of this is mountains. Come around this way. Cruise up here, circle over the very southern border of Croatia. Head up this way to the town of Niksic, and then cruise up here to where all the valleys are going to start, which is in this region right here. And we'll cut down through this way. Fly. I don't know exactly where the route is because we're not looking at here, but through all of these mountains, there's big valleys that cut through it, and cut through a river valley that comes down through here like this. Spit ourselves out by the capital city, and then come over here, circle around a big mountain this way, come back along the coast, and then land at the very same place that we took off from. So that'll give you a general idea of where we're going. And as always, this exact flight plan will be included in the video description if you want to take it yourself. And we're not going to be flying this on autopilot naturally, but it does have autopilot if you want to use it. Okay, so I didn't open the canopy either, because when I open the canopy, it shifts my camera over to the right, and it made it even harder to see some of the stuff that was going on, so I don't know what's up with that. And my HUD is centered, because before it wasn't, so I adjusted the camera before I turned it on, and that's looking pretty good too. Alright, so let me zoom out on... I'm going to be looking over to my left, even though I could track it over here. It's a little bit easier for me to see, because we're going so fast on little NavMap, which I'm going to have open to my left. So if I'm glancing this way a couple times, that's probably what I'm doing. Alright, I do have to get to the taxiway first, which looks like it's over here to the right. Okay, so parking brake off, and we'll get moving. No add-ons available for this flight. There are a few for some freeware add-ons that you can get at flightsim.to for some of the airports we'll be flying over. But this thing is so fast that my GPU is just, it sounds like a hairdryer running down there. So I don't want it to have to think any harder than necessary. Adding any extra data would not be good. And we'll probably still have a few little stutter spots as we're going along, just because this plane is going to be rip-roaring, but most of it will be pretty good. And just to spoil the punchline of this flight, if any of you get kicks out of flying the Mach loop in Wales, and I'm sure many of you do, well, I think, and this is only my opinion, and again, I've flown it a couple times, but I don't have a lot of planes like this, so I don't do it very often, but I flew it again before this flight. I think this one is going to put it absolutely to shame. So if you like flying little routes like that, and you haven't flown it here before, I think you're going to like this quite a bit. In fact, maybe we should have a little contest to see who can fly it the fastest. So what I think I'll do, that'd be fun to do that. So what I'll do is when I get to the waypoints in little NavMap, so to get synced up, you'd have to load up this flight plane in the little NavMap. I'll tell you the waypoint we're going to start it from and the waypoint that we'll end it from. And whoever gets the best time, I'll give you a shout out. Just let us know what you were flying also in the YouTube comments. We'll see what's up. Or you can post it in our Discord server if you remember that, and I'll tell you how to become a member later on if you'd like to. Alright, we got to get to the... Well, we don't really need to get to the end of this runway, but why not just take in this scenery? Incredible. And when we're coming in for our landing, I'm not going to do that banking landing, because again, I don't get a lot of practice with that, and I don't want to blow a whole recording by botching that thing. So we're just going to do a straight-in landing, which will come right to the, I guess, the western side of those mountains up ahead of us. And unfortunately, a lot of the scenery out here is flat. It's not great. It's all default stuff, so even the stuff that we can see isn't going to look good, which is too bad because there's so many forts out here. And when we get down in the valleys, you'll catch a few glimpses of them as we're coming through there. Some of the rivers don't look great. They're running up and down the sides of the hills, but it really doesn't matter because it looks so incredible once we get out there. Look at these mountains. Just beautiful. Really incredible. You know, I'm kind of wondering if the Eastern European... I don't think the Eastern European add-on, the World Update, threw anything extra out here. To the north of where we're leaving from, I think there's a castle, a big castle that got modded, but it's too far north for us to see. So there's just not anything in this area. And this is not a real populated area for a beautiful place as it is right along the coast here. I'll tell you some of the population numbers as we hit some of the cities. So I'm not going to give you a lot of the details like we usually do in our flights of the stuff we're seeing on the ground just because there won't be time. But when we have a few minutes, I will share some things with you that I managed to scrounge up. And I changed the live weather because on the ground it was a 6-knot wind and it was a crosswind, and this thing is pretty jittery and rough winds, so I turned it to the sparse clouds setting in AccuSeason Advanced, and just gave us a 2-knot headwind on the ground, so it shouldn't be too bad once we get up there. Alright, we'll just get down here and get turned around, and we'll be on our way. And you guys will have to help me out with this. I think this is one of the planes that does the auto flaps. I couldn't really tell because I was trying to manipulate the flaps on the ground and it didn't seem to be doing anything, but I noticed after I landed that my flaps were deployed. So let me know. Again, I don't know much about these planes other than that they're fun to fly. Alright, so we'll get our landing light on for the time being. And we don't need to worry about any flaps. Check our barrel real quick. Not that that really matters either, but let's just go through a semi-proper checklist. Whew, okay, you guys ready to do this? Let me get back zoomed out on a little nav map so I can see where we're going to be going. Alright, here we go. Let's rock and roll. And I hope my butt kicker is going to work for this one because it's a lot of fun when my seat really starts shaking around like crazy. Alright, we're looking for 120 knots to rotate. And I had to throw a little extra fuel in here because I did get the bingo alert when I was flying before. Alright, so pull it up till it unsticks. Come on, unstick yourself. There we go. And gears up. And we're off. I did leave the ships and boats on just because I thought it added a lot to the immersion, despite the frame rate impact it probably had. But it looks pretty cool as you can see. So this town to our right is called Tivat, or maybe Tivat, situated right here along the Bay of Kotor. And right ahead of us is Biela. And you can see that all these look great. Marinas look great because we have our marina add-on pack installed. Just beautiful. And I did put an external camera out here just because it's awesome. And we're going to have some low power lines. You can see them right there. So you got to make sure you clear those things if you're going to try to stay low. You can see the cliffs down by the water aren't great. But again, I'm not being picky for that because this is all about Mach Loop version 2.0 for this trip. And man, are we going to... Yeah, my seat's shaking. That's great. We're going to be pulling some G's on this flight. All right, let's take it back just a little bit on the throttle for now. I don't want to black out, which I did do a few times on some of these flights. All right, the town at the end of this cove up ahead is Kotor, after which this bay is named. And the Romans were the first to really start building it up in the 500s AD. And it changed hands about 300 times, all the way up through the 20th century. But during the Middle Ages, there was a large aristocratic class centered in Kotor. And those guys built a whole lot of castles around here. In fact, on that little hill ledge right to the... It's just coming inside of our heads-up display right now. There's a big castle up there, but I couldn't find it in the sim. I'll show you all that stuff on little NavMap, satellite map at the end when we're done. And a lot of the old stuff downtown appears to be in pretty good shape in real life, but there are ruins all over the place, spanning at least the last 1,500 years, on tops of all these mountains. And a lot of the landowners from Kotor are the ones that built up Tivat and the other towns that we saw back in the day. But Tivat, which is that first one we saw on the right, is the newest of the towns that they built, which is still like 1,500 years old. Newest of the towns they built up along the coast out here. And there's our airport. And a lot of the recent forts and the batteries are along the coast. I'll try to point out a few of them if we're not going too fast, if we can see them. But those were all built up to defend this bay, which is a big port for the Austro-Hungarians during the World War I. So they had a sub base out here, whatever rudimentary subs they had back then. And they're going to be all along these little strips of land out here by the water. All right, we'll pick it up a little bit. Or a lot, maybe. Why not pick it up a lot? We're going to be flying straight for a while. Throw the afterburners on. But just gorgeous, gorgeous landscape out here. The flat beaches look great. Marina down there looks good. It's just the cliffs, as usual, that are a problem. So we're going to see a little spot that's just a little tiny island out here right in the middle. And they've got a big fort on that, but here it is right here. It's just completely flat, which is too bad because it's a huge fort. We'll be able to see a few spots where they've got some coastal batteries right down here, but all you can see is the concrete roof on the top of them. But when you fly over that, if you're closer, you can see that it's supposed to be a fort, but again, it's just totally flat, which is too bad. So this little thing right here is called the Prevlaka Peninsula, and this is the southernmost point of Croatia. But as soon as we turn to the east, we'll be back in Montenegro. There's that fort is, totally flat. What a bummer. And some bad cliffs. So everything on this little strip right here looked like it was old forts. Any of those buildings and stuff you see, they may have converted into something else. But all of these open spots here are the tops of gun batteries they had back in the day. And it looks like these are all old or either repurposed forts. All right, this little town along the coast right up here is called Igalo, which used to be a big tourist destination before the Yugoslav wars, which I'll tell you about in a minute, but now it's more of a local attraction that still has a few nice spas and hotels. And over to our left, once we flatten out and cut through this little valley, we'll see Suber Mountain, and that gets up to around, that's it over here, up to around 5,000 feet. And the only info I could get about that was that the tourists like to go up there to get away from the muggy beaches. Because apparently it gets pretty sweltering down there by the water. So the first time I took this flight was in the Chancellor, which was just beautiful. It's a great little sightseeing flight, but it's long if you're going at 200 knots. Really long. All right, so some really quick recent history of Montenegro. And as a disclaimer, this place has a very, very complicated past. Right up through the last couple of decades. So if I'm getting any of this wrong, if you're from Montenegro, please forgive me. In the 20th century, all this region was part of the Kingdom of Yugoslavia before becoming the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia during World War II, which saw a lot of fighting between the local rebels that were trying to defend this place from the Italians and the Germans before they started fighting with each other. And in the late 1980s, the dissolution of Yugoslavia started, which saw a lot more fighting, again, mostly between the locals. And in 2006, Montenegro finally became independent. Or maybe it was 2016. I left a number out of there. I just wrote 206, sometime in the 2000s. And since then, it has been plagued by political authoritarianism and corruption. And in 2015, the four-time prime minister and two-time president, Milo Đukanovic, was named Person of the Year in Organized Crime, which is no small accomplishment. All right, we're going to circle to the east of the city of Niksic, which is right up here by these big lakes. And this is the second largest in Montenegro with a population of around 70,000. And just so you know how sparsely populated this entire region is, this town is also the second most populated in the entire region, which was really big. It used to be Yugoslavia. And to the west of town, that first one there that we'd come across is Slano Lake, which is man-made. Built in 1950 to provide hydroelectric power to the city, or the town. And it also has the largest bird sanctuary in the country. And the smaller Krupak Lake, which is that next one up there, also man-made, was apparently, unlike the other one, much, much easier to get to. And in light of that, they stock it full of fish. California trout, they said. And they made some sandy beaches so everyone brave enough to visit this area can enjoy the water. And it sounds like it's a beautiful place. All right, I'm circling up this way because there's a steel mill that's right up here, and I just want to see what it looks like. It's going to be defaultish, but you know I can't miss a rusty old steel mill. It might not even be rusty since it's all default. We'll see. And this town saw a pretty good amount of bombing during World War II, as the Brits were trying to drive out the Nazis. So there's the steel mill. Look how beautiful this is. Incredible. And it doesn't look very rusty, does it? Well, you can kind of tell it's a big industrial area, though, can't you? Boy, for default, that actually looks pretty good. That's pretty close to what it looks like. Huh. Alright, so we're coming up on the Valley Run. And again, if anyone wants to time me, obviously I can't do it myself while I'm trying to fly this thing. We're going to start at waypoint 15. I'll tell you when we get there. And let's see, we'll end it at waypoint 35, which is going to spit us out by the capital city. And I'll tell you when we get to that one too. So again, feel free to post your time in the comments. Just be sure to leave the type of plane that you were flying when you do that, so that we'll be able to try to do it in the same plane. I know I'd like to try to do it. Alright, there's the valley up ahead of us. And I'm going to have to try to keep it under 500 knots. I'd love to do it at 800 knots. This thing can get up that fast, no problem, but my pilot's going to black out on some of these turns if I do that, so I'm going to have to pull it back a little bit. So we'll go ahead and afterburn it till we get there, then we'll dive down, I'll pull it back a little bit, and then we're going to let it rip. Not a lot of towns out here. We'll fly over a few little villages up in these mountains. So little information about them, which is fine because I'm going to be going so fast there'd be no time to talk about it. I thought it might be kind of fun to attempt to do a serious narration of this stuff as we're flying by, but there just wasn't any stuff to talk about, and it's going by way too fast. Alright. Boy, I'm surprised we're not going faster than this. I got the afterburners on. We're barely over 500 knots. Hope I didn't put too much fuel in. And it's easy to get lost down here, so you'll want to have, you know, we can track it down our little GPS track down there if you want to, or something pulled up, because you'll get going the wrong way. Next thing you know, you'll be stuck in a valley with no outlet. Alright, so here we go. And I'm going to let go of the throttle and fly with my right hand, because it'll be a little bit easier. But this is going to be cool. Alright, so this water looks pretty good. You'll see some of the more narrow rivers don't look great at all, but that's fine. Boy, it doesn't feel like we're going 577 knots, does it? Alright, here's our first hard turn. Coming up dead ahead of us. I wonder how high we are above the ground right now. Alright, I need to make sure I don't black out. I don't know, because the screen's going to start getting dark. You're going to see an incredible natural feature once we come up out of this valley. It's like a big U-shaped rock formation. Oh, don't black out. All right. I mean, for stuff this remote, these little towns we're flying over look pretty doggone cool. All right, so we'll come up out of this one, fly through our interesting little formation. I'm going to cut right through that notch right there. And then once we crest that, we should see the U thing. Alright, where are you? There it is. Look at that. And that's what it looks like in real life, too. Incredible. Alright, so I'm going to crank up the throttle again, just till we get up over here, and then we'll dive back down into the valleys. Just so sparsely populated. And if I wasn't wanting to fly through the U here, you can see there's more valleys down there. We could have taken that, but why pass this thing up? I feel like there should be a little checkpoint sign or something that we fly through here, where we get like 20 more seconds on our time. Alright, we're going to dip down and take a hard right turn around that mountain there. Yeah, I feel like I was going a lot faster on that last one. That's alright. We want to keep it under control. Well, this will give you guys an easy benchmark if you're wanting to beat my time. Alright, I'm going to try to go faster doing the straightaways just to pick up a few extra seconds. That river looks pretty good, but it's not running right. We're going to get some narrow canyons here before long. Look at this stuff. Doesn't look like there's a lot of farms either, just really remote residences. Let's see how low we can get it. All right. Pull it back a little bit. Yep, that river's kind of going up the side there. Shoot, if it's going to keep me this slow, I'm just going to keep the pedal to the metal. Gorgeous. Incredible. All right, here we go. Some tight turns here. And we're getting that stuttering now. Pulling the throttle back just a little bit. So the Mach Loop was just, I feel like the valleys weren't as sharp, the edges weren't as steep, which is why I kind of like this one a little bit more. It's a little bit more rounded out. All right, so we're going to come up over this and down into a beautiful valley on the other side of this thing. Where do you see this? Check that out. Incredible. Man, look at that. All right, down we go. Up to 500 knots again. These mountains look pretty good up around the top. Better than a lot of parts of the Alps. Not so much the river. That doesn't look good at all. But the trees, the rolling hills, jagged hills, all of it looks great. All right, hard turn. And a bridge. There's our bridge. Our one piece of road. All right, look at this turn up ahead of us. That's tight. I'm gonna have to slow down a little bit. I'm not gonna make that. Oh, and there's some houses too. Those look like chalets. Oh, yeah. Amazing. Oh, another bridge. All right, here we go. This is where it's going to get really tight. Really tight. There's a big waterfall up in here somewhere, too. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, I gotta concentrate. And you will too when you're doing this. Alright, we're down under 400 now. I'm putting the afterburners back on. Let's just see if we can do this thing. I think we got one more really tight turn up here, but I don't even know if we're gonna hit 500 knots before we get there. We're gonna get some aerodynamic braking as we plane this thing out to the side. Alright. Yeah. And alright, the valleys are going to get less steep here. Whoa, some power lines. And I looked for the spot where the cable cars are. It was down near that first town that we left from. I couldn't see them though, unfortunately. So it may be just too remote for our cable car pack. And some more power lines. They got a few of them out here, don't they? Alright, we're going to start to see some industrial buildings up here. I think it's mining. They got a few mines out here. Look at that. You can even see the rocks down there in the river. Looks really cool. So you saw that mine over to our right, probably. Okay, so that's waypoint 35. I forgot to tell you the waypoint 15. Well, I'll come back in time myself. You can look on the little nav map to see where those waypoints are, but we just crossed over 35, so that's where we would have ended that. So this spits us out right over Podgorica, the capital and largest city in the country with a population of around 190,000. And this place was a big, relatively speaking, city called Doclea during Roman times, and I'll show you where they excavated A big, see right down there? That's a big Roman ruin that they had down there. It was right at the confluence of two big rivers they had running through town. And they said everybody packed up and left around 500 AD, and they're not sure why, but they think something pretty bad probably happened. Because it looks like they left in a hurry. So they think it might have either been an earthquake or it might have been invaded by somebody. Something not good. And there's a huge observation tower on the top of one of these hills. It might be one of those two right there, which did not get modeled in the sim. I'll show you that at the end too, if I can remember to do that. And this lake up ahead to our left is called Skadar, which is roughly bisected by the border with Albania to the southeast. But everything we'll be flying over for the remainder of this trip is within the borders of Montenegro. The lake is connected to the Adriatic Sea by the Buna River, which we won't be able to spot because it's way down at the southern end. But they said it's mostly spring-fed, this lake is. So I'm guessing it's probably pretty clear. And there was an in-sim marker that said there were some geese around here somewhere, but I didn't see any when I was flying around. And they said it's also only 16 feet deep on average, so pretty shallow too. All right, we're going to loop around that big mountain up there ahead of us called Mirjlika. And then we're going to swoop down to the coast where we'll find the old port town of Bar, which will be right around the side of that mountain. And the original full-length name of the town was Antibari, because it sits directly across the Adriatic from the Italian coastal town of Bari. So I guess somewhere along the line someone just shortened it to Bar, which makes sense. And they got castles all over the place once we get on the other side of this mountain here. But unfortunately, they all got the default AI treatment. So not really worth pointing out, but I'll show them to you at the end. Yep, we're going to get this one hard freeze right here. And that should be it. That's happened to me every time so far. The only thing I can imagine is that for some reason I've got some extra fuel on board this time, because I was, with afterburners on, I was cruising at 800 knots before, and now I'm struggling to get over 600. So not sure what's up with that. Alright, here we go. We're going to take a hard dive once we come over here. Pull some G's again. So there's the town of Bar over there. And I want to show you something pretty interesting. See this green spot right here? It looks like that's somebody's farms, just tucked right down there inside these little mountains, which is pretty cool. And they've also got a big church. It looks like a big basilica down there. And on top of one of these hills over here, they got a big fortress, which again doesn't look that great. So some interesting stuff to see if you ever come out here. And I just ran into someone this last week that mentioned they were on a cruise that stopped in Croatia, which again is just north of here. I haven't talked to anyone yet that went to Montenegro though. Again, Marina looks incredible. And the town at the northern end of this big bay here is called Sudamore. And I want to see if we can spot a big fortress that was so big. It's right on top of this mountain. I'm going to see if we can see it. We might be able to spot that one. And then we'll come over and do a little wave riding, see how close we can get down with the water. Let's see if we can spot the fortress. Ooh, it looks kind of treed over. I don't think we're going to be able to see anything. Oh. No. It looked a little bit balder on top of that mountain in real life. Alright, let's come down here and do some wave riding. Right past these nasty looking cliffs. I got down to about 100 feet before, and I think I sucked up some water into the intake because the engine died. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous area. So we're at 240 feet right now. God, that's awesome. Alright, we're going to see a little island up here that's called Sveti Nickel Island, which appears to be uninhabited except for a beach on the northern end with a couple structures on it. This big hump right here. And on the shore behind it is the town of Budva. And there's a big fort, a big citadel they called it, out on this point out here. But it's all AI. They got like a lot of town buildings around it, so you can really see that. So here's where they... On the other side of this, there's a little building which probably services the beach over there. And there's a nice looking go-kart track over here. I'm going to see if we can spot it. I'm going to do a hard bank to see if we can see it. There it is right there. See it? Very cool. All right, so we got to slow way down. Our gear speed's 250 knots. And we're coming up on our airport, which again is the one we left from. Avoid the power lines. All right, we're definitely high enough. And there's the runway right over there. All right, speed brake out because we got to slow way down. And then we'll come on down, take a look at the little nav map. And I'll show you some of the stuff that is definitely not visible in the sim. All right, gears out. And now we'll give it some throttle. I was trying to use that little indicator, those arrows on the left, which when it gets the little circle in the middle shows you the appropriate angle of attack, but every time I got there it started stalling. So again, maybe one of you guys that flies planes like this more often, I've seen that in a couple of different fighter planes, I just don't know how to use it properly. Maybe give me a little tutorial on how you're supposed to use that. Because whenever I can get it to turn green, the plane starts rattling like it's going to stall. Alright, our approach speed's about 140, 150. So we'll try to get down there. And I think it's taking care of the flaps for us. I can't tell if they're deployed there or not. Hopefully. Look at that area. It's just incredible. Yeah, they've had a lot of conflicts out here for a very, very long time, which is real unfortunate when you find these beautiful natural areas like this. And I don't know if it's still dangerous to come out here or what. So if you want to join our Discord server, which I strongly encourage you to do, the link for that will also be in the video description. And in there you can put a submission in for our quarterly flight plan competition. And this one's definitely going to make the cut. And once a quarter, we'll vote on that as a sim community. And the winner will get a gift card to the sim vendor of their choice. And I'll also include our bookmark file for the last... Oh, that was a nice landing. Better than my last one. For all of the flights we've ever taken, that'll put them into little nav maps, so if you want to try to spot some of the spots that we're looking at as we're cruising around, that'll make it a heck of a lot easier for you to do, unless you want to do all that research yourself. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of coast for a little while, because the airport's down there a little way, and then we'll pull over and shut her down. And next we'll be touring. We're going to take that in a helicopter. And I thought about getting the R-66 by Cowansim, which I just love all their helicopters, but it seems like, other than the shape, it's a little bit longer. Very, very similar to the R-44, so if I didn't already have that, I'd probably get it. And I have the R-22 as well. And then they just came out with a new Airbus helicopter, so maybe I'll check that thing out. Who knows? But we're going to fly that one in a helicopter. That's a nice area too, which is photogrammetry and has a bunch of add-ons, so we'll check all that stuff out. Alright, I'm going to avoid the fuel station so it doesn't pull up my fuel request screen. We'll just pull right over here. And we'll park right here. Looks like a perfect spot. Okay, so I think all I need to do is just shut the fuel off to get this thing to shut down. I can't get this thing to look over to the left. It's so difficult. Alright, and now we'll open the canopy. And watch what it does when I open the canopy. See that? I'm not sure why, and I can't adjust the camera at all. And if I change the camera angles, and you guys, if you have this, probably already know that, it throws the pilot in here, so I'm like looking through his oxygen mask, which does not work well. So I had to use the default camera and then kind of move my head around to get it centered up just right. Alright, so here's a little nav map. Let's check this out real quick. Alright, so here's the area we left from. All this looked pretty good, especially as you're flying over really, really quick until you get to the coastlines that have any cliffs. We had those power lines there that we needed to watch out for. And as we came around here to the town of Kotor, here's one of the big castles they have up here. Here's one of them, the Fort of St. John, which has got to be incredible. Look how it's looking over the city like that. Boy, and you can tell even the satellite images aren't great out here. Look at that switchback. Gee whiz. Holy smokes. It probably takes like 2 hours to drive up that thing. You better have good brakes if you're coming down, too. Alright, so that's that. And then we came over here, and we got... Here's where the cable car line runs, right past this fort right here. So it starts down here in what looks like a big sand pit. I couldn't see the station for it. I didn't look for the one on this side, but I couldn't see any kind of cable car either. But here's one of the forts, and they got a lot of them out here. You might have been able to see that. It looks like there's a little moat or something out there. But we were just zipping past too quick. And then we came out here to where all the coastal stuff was. And this one you can see... This is a battery, again, probably from World War I when they were defending the port. The Austro-Hungarians. And you can see they got the little cannon emplacements where they would have been. And I bet all of these field markings you can see here are probably old war structures. Because once you get up here, it's all war stuff. Look at this fort. This is one that's totally flat. How cool would that have been? And you can kind of... I mean, it even looks better here in this actual photograph than it does in the sim. But that would have been awesome to see that in the modeled correctly. And here's the tops of all of those coastal gun batteries. And all this... And look at this fort. Here's another one right here. I forgot to mark that one. Look at that. I couldn't see that one at all. But everything out here on the Google map anyway looked like it was old war ruins. And this is part of Croatia here. And here's the town of Igalo. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And we cut through this mountain pass. There's that big mountain that was to our left, Subra. And look at this. They got a little pass through here. I couldn't spot any of these either, but this is the ruins of an old... There was a big military base of some kind out here, and I think it was being used by the rebels because they got a rebel monument here. The guys that were trying to fight off the guys during World War I and World War II. And then they got a fort on the top of this mountain peak over here, and then another one on the other side. Look at that. Also looks like it's in ruins, but that's pretty cool, huh? And this is an old bakery. It's the ruins of an old bakery, so you can see they had a little support facility of some kind down there. And then we took a very long haul, which went really fast in this plane out here to Niksic. And there's the two big man-made lakes. They said this one, in Wikipedia, they said there's no roads going out to it, but if you zoom in real close, you can see there is at least one road going out to it. So they said no one really comes out to this one, but they said it's beautiful if you can make your way down there. And there's another road up on the top of it. I don't know what they're talking about, but they said all these little islands and stuff look great. The coastlines look great. But they didn't build any beaches on this one. That was this one up here where they built some beaches. You can see they got some out there, and this is the one they stock with a California trout, too. And both of them have dams, but they kind of look just like that. They're not real big. And I'm not sure where the hydroelectric plant is. I didn't see one of those anywhere. So the steel mill is out here. And as you can see, I mean, that's pretty much what it looked like in the sim. I mean, that was a really nice job for a default Mimic. Really nice. You could see all this stuff here, all this stuff on the top there. Huh. So that looked good. Okay, so here's waypoint 15. This spot right here would have been waypoint 15. I made a little angle there so I know where it was. So that's where, if we're timing this, that's where we're going to start it. That's where we dip into the valley. Cruise around here, and then right up here is where that thing is, the U-shaped thing. It's right here, which you can tell in real life looks incredible. You can't see the U from here, but look at that. What an interesting formation. It's like the whole mountain's up on a big pedestal. Really cool. So we flew out over a little flat part. That's where we saw those nice little towns, and then we hit the big valley coming over here, and this is where it all started. All went crazy. Cruised all the way down along that thing, cut through that, and here's where we dipped over the top of that one. This was beautiful. That was my favorite scene in the whole thing, coming over the top of that there. What is that called? Cerna Greta? And then coming down this valley. That was amazing. And then this is where it started getting real tight through here. That was a lot of fun. Man, that was a lot of fun. And I cruised all the way down here to the capital city. Podgorica? They say the C is like a sh sound, so Podgorica probably. I'm not good at speaking whatever the native language is out here. And here's that big site, Doclea, where the Romans built up that big town. And they said it was kind of buried, so when they uncovered it, they said it was all in situ, which means that it wasn't really disturbed. But you can see that is a big, big area, and there were tons of Google pics from on the ground. It looked really, really cool. And I think sometime later, after the Romans moved out, it became a Christian site where I think they built a church up as well out there. But that's neat. And then the tower, the observation tower, I think that's what it is, would have been on one of these mountains down here. There it is right there. I'm not even going to try to say that word. But it goes up to, what I'm guessing, I couldn't get a lot of details about it, are 3 big observation areas up here, and it looks like they may be tiered as well. But you can see by the shadow, that thing is pretty big. Really cool. And then we came out over the big lake out here. So the river that connects us to the Adriatic forms the border with Albania to the south. So this is Albania over here, and the river comes through this way and spits out to the Adriatic over here. But we didn't see that. We came around this mountain here to check out the town of Bar, and the town that it's named after when it was called Antibara is... Where is Bari over here? That's Barletta. I can't see it here. It was much bigger on the Google map. That's called something Bari, so that might be it right there, which I'm guessing was probably a big, important port town at some point. But that area looked pretty good. There's that little field where the farmers got all this stuff down right in the middle of the mountains, which is pretty cool. And here is, a couple big forts out here. So this is a huge one. Look at this. That is gigantic. Also, this is actually up on top of a mountain up here, so that's pretty cool. And then down here, what was that one? Oh, that's the town of Bar. That's just my marker for that. So here's that big basilica. Look at that thing. I didn't fly over there to check it out. I don't know how good it looks. And I figured this must be something important, but it's not. These are like apartment complexes over here. I think they just gave them some nice gardens. And then we came up here by where that other big fort is on top of this mountain by Sudamore. And look at this place. Look at that. So it was totally cleared of trees in real life. In the sim, it was totally covered by trees. So... You know, I thought I saw a little outer wall here, so that might have been that, but I didn't see any of these other details. Boy, that would look cool to explore that. I wonder how you get up there. You must have to hike, because I don't see any roads going up there, which is awesome. It means it's probably not real populated. And then we came around this way, and here is the town of Petrovac, and then here's where that citadel is, if this will clear out. Right down here, which is kind of even blurry in here, so I can understand why you wouldn't see that in the sim. And then here's that island. Wait a minute, is that it? No, it's up here. Sorry. Although there is a citadel on that. Anywhere where there's a point sticking out, you'll find a little fortress. There's one right there. Here's the other one up here. So here's that island that was uninhabited. And boy, from here, you wouldn't think it is as tall as it is. And they said right here there's a big cliff diving area, so it must be pretty high. And then here's the only structure on the whole island. They got a little marina. Oh, you can see all the beach stuff they got laid out. Yeah, they must take tourists out there, whatever tourists they get. And then here's where the other citadel was. Pretty small. Can't see much of that. And then we came over here to check out a little go-kart track and then came in for our final. So check it out, guys. If you like flying really fast, really low, and taking some pretty hard high G turns, this is the trip for you guys. So 35 would have been where we would be stopping our clock if we're timing it right here, this last hard turn. So 15 and 35, and once you load up a fresh flight plan, you'll see all the numbers of the waypoints up here. So if you want to try to time it, let me know how you do. I'll go back and try to time it again, see how I do. Just let us know the plane you're flying. That's it. Next will be Torin. Going to be an awesome trip. Can't wait to see you all again in the skies. Later.